All right, Mike, karibu sana.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who's Mike Mushi?
So, I'm Mike Mushi, born 20-something years ago. I'm passionate for the internet, and soon we have given it a good name, entrepreneur. So it's an internet entrepreneur, but also it's being a fascinating journey in looking right now in looking ways how we could actually benefit by using the internet. How can it be a full-time job? How can people make money out of it? How can it become one of the things people study in university and look forward to come and do? So yeah, that's a little bit about it.
Yeah. Tell us about your life growing up and how that shaped you into the entrepreneur you are today.
So I think there's so many things that happened so many years ago that actually made who I was, and one of the biggest influences has been my family, especially my dad. He was a bit exposed to the world, so at a very young age, I remember he first bought a computer when he was 5 years old, and we had a home tutor when we were 6. He comes once a week just to teach us how to use the computer, and he thought that was not enough, and he thought we should have internet at home. At that time, he had to face so many criticism. Why do you want to give your kids 6 or 8 internet at home? So he said, you know what, I think I'm not gonna pay any TV subscription services, but I'll do my best to make sure you have one computer that has internet at home. So, and he also had this vision of what internet will be in Tanzania in the coming years. So he pushed us to that direction. We thought, without knowing, we end up liking it. I think at first we all play games with computers. There's nothing else we could actually do. And the computer gets broken, and you gotta find ways to repair it, because it says, you know, I'm paying money for internet every month, so this computer should start working. Then you have books, you read, you find ways to troubleshoot. If you ultimately fail, that's when you call an outside person to come and help you guys, like give you a tip. I think this is how you did it wrong, so make it right. And you will move on from games. Now you come to the internet and start downloading songs and printing school materials, actually to up to the time where you think, okay, so how can you make money out of it? So I think that has shaped all of us in our family, I would say, on how computer and internet has actually influenced our lives till today.
Okay. So what was your first business, and how old were you when you started your first business?
So the first business I tried to do, it was a few years back. So my dad really believed that I could become a Wall Street stockbroker at home. And because of the time differences in Tanzania and in the US, which means the stock market opens at 8:39, it's pretty much 4 here. So you could wake up in the morning, do your research, logging in your computer at 4. When the stock market opens, you can trade, and by midnight, which is 4 p.m., the States, they close, you can also go and sleep. So he opened an account, his account, so he just uses his credential, and thought that could become what I would do in life. And he believed that if I do that very well, I'll retire when I'm 30. At that time, 14 or 13, after finishing class 7. So I did it for 2 years, and I lost a lot of money. And
How much?
I think $20,000-$30,000 at that time. They said,
what year was this?
2004, 2002, 2003, 2005. So he said, I think I'm closing this. You can't do it anymore. I think just find your own place and things you can do. I tried teaching you. This seems like you're not getting it. You're taking up all my mind. So that was a business we closed. So when I switched to do web hosting, web design, because at that time I was also running some few pet projects. So I would go to his friends and ask an appointment, and then I would pitch. And then their friends have companies like radio stations, and then they would actually give me that job, and they would pay me for me to make their website, to host their website. So that was a little bit successful at that time. And I did it for some years, and could it could actually I could actually see money coming in. So those were the first businesses that I did.
Yeah. So you were 14, going to companies asking them to develop their website. How did they take that? How was the reaction from the company owners?
Well, I think I just had to make one, because then it was easy using that as a reference to the other. And I would, because my dad would pay for the cost, so I would make the website first and you'll pay me later. So that was easy. Like, okay, trust me, I can make you a website, but don't pay me now. But this is how much I want. And because they knew I wouldn't make it, so I made it, and they were, okay, the website is up, it's running, everything, and then they will end up paying me later. So after making one or two, when you go to the other person, it becomes much more easier, because you have a portfolio of sites you have actually, and also you would use like your dad's name, because he's very influential, he knows all these people. So that was like an easy way around, because there's no way I would have known these people if he's not part of his network. So, okay, do you know this person? Do you know this person? Okay. I think, can you introduce me to so you'll do the introduction and you will carry on from there.
Okay, so how did you gain, other than just playing with computers, how did you gain that skill of making a website? Had you gone to school? Were you studying it in school, or?
No. We didn't go to school. So we had resources in terms of books, but also because we had internet very early on, you could actually search all these things. At that time, there was search engines like Yahoo. You just go and download all these e-books. My dad had a credit card, so you would ask for his permission to buy a book before you actually buy it. So all of these had the self-learned. You buy books and learn and practice, but also because I used to have like dummy projects of my own. We have a chat room, people logging in chat. We had a forum before Jamii Forums was there. We had several other small pet projects that you actually just got the interaction, but there was no monetary benefit out of it. So you could actually practice yourself and see it working. And this also, I think, inspired what we did one of the sites back in 2005 about elections. So we'll curate news about elections in newspapers and then put them on that website. It was called uchaguzitanzania.com. So then that was as a reference again, like, I've built that, you've seen that. So all these were pet projects that perfected our skills. It wasn't that great at that time, but it at least gets something up and running.
Okay. So Jamii Forums, how did that come up to what it is today? How did you think of building such a big forum in Tanzania?
So we used to run a website, as I said, it was called Uchaguzi Tanzania. So we in 2005, so we go open newspapers, collect news regarding elections, put them on that site. But what was more influential on that site was an opinion poll. So we had an opinion poll since the beginning of the election. So during the primaries, there were like names of people who took forms during CCM at that time. And people would log in and select which candidate they think will win and vote.
Yeah.
So what happened, newspapers, because we read the newspapers because we were getting articles from them. And then this one day I opened Mwananchi newspaper and that poll result was on the front page of the newspaper that so-and-so is leading in opinion polls run on the internet. So that gained, then we thought, okay, I think this thing is working. Then it went on and it became big. So they are doing like every week on Monday, they had this article on the front page saying who is leading by what percent, and the site became big. Although at that time the traffic was mostly Tanzania living in the diaspora, so it wasn't big in Tanzania. And people were actually accessing Tanzania were using office computers. So it was a success, and it brought us a little bit of trouble, but it wasn't that big. And the election was over in 2006. So we were trying to find ways how can we continue the conversation that was going, because the interaction was very good. People were talking about what's happening in the elections. We were talking about who's going to win and why. So how will you keep that conversation going on? So I think that now the name the project was useless again. So Uchaguzi Tanzania means election in Tanzania. So you can't actually, after election is over, how can you then use that name? It doesn't make sense. So that's when the Jamii Forum was born. I think in 2006, sometimes February, and it was a way how do we channel the conversation onwards after the election was done. So at that time, the internet was for the wealthiest in the diaspora. It wasn't something. It was hard to predict what will be 10 years to come, because you actually saw how internet was. It was very expensive. It was not for everybody. There was no way. We thought mobile would come and revolutionize internet. So ideas were limited and to how it could be. But the idea was how do you scale the conversation onwards from for the momentum we have built during the election.
So how did you make money, given that not everybody had access to internet, not everybody was accessing it, so traction probably wasn't?
Yeah, so money wasn't a factor at that time, as I said, because there was just a portfolio of what you can do. Because then when you go to pitch to make somebody's website, you would say, you're using that website. Yes, that's our website. So there were no ways of making money at that time. Maybe I was too young to find ways, but there were actually no monetary ways such a platform could actually bring. But you would have made money other ways into making people's websites, hosting, and kind of services, not
the Jamii Forums.
Yes.
So when did you start taking it seriously? Like, this thing could actually be bigger than what I think it is?
So in terms of taking seriously, that some few phases, because as you said, monetary wasn't an incentive for us since we started. So back 2008, 2009, we were trying to legalize and get things in order. It was getting traction. It started getting traction when internet started becoming cheaper and access to the internet to people started becoming affordable. People were using mobile phones to access the internet, and offices internet becomes cheaper. So in 2008, 2009, we established a company. I think we got off. At that time, if you only got one advert, you could just last for a year and not think about it. So then you get one, and you rest for a year, and you wake up another year, you're still there where you left. So in 2010, during another election, or 5 years after, connectivity was high, the numbers were huge, just getting it running was an expense. So you actually had to do something. You had to close it down, or you actually had to find innovative ways to run it. So I think in 2012, 2011, we started having an office. We then built up staff until where we are today. So it started very late. I think 3-4 years ago, like serious monetization and taking it into a serious platform where it has potential for sustainability.
So for the sake of the startup founders here who probably want to learn about revenue models and the internet, could you share with us like revenue models that you explored while building Jamii Forum?
So most of the revenue models we explore are invalid right now, like they don't work right now. So for example, at that time when we started. So advertising is still it's still a big chunk of our revenue in terms of percentage, but that has a lot of side effects with us. But, and that is more direct. But we tried VAS, value added service, which means SMS, meaning we would send people breaking news SMS, and we'll take some portion of their credit, and that will be turned into revenue. So 4 years ago, VAS was a very big thing because people had balance on their phone. Right now, people have bundles, so they don't keep credit on their phone. So no matter how much good service of VAS you have, when you want to charge somebody every day in the morning, there's just no money in their phone. But still, they can call, they can have data. So VAS is not working. We tried crowdsourcing, guys, please give us money. We are doing this thing for good cause, send us here's our pesa to the pesa number. So that also wasn't working. We tried a couple, I don't remember all of them, but we were willing to try and see, can it work? If it can work, how can we leverage on that? So, but now the scene has changed, and the ways of monetization are completely different. And you just have to innovate fast and take opportunity of the advantage and move to the next thing. So every company that relied on VAS right now is actually dead. So right now you have to look ways on how are you going to take your money directly from their mobile wallet rather from their credits. And that becomes harder because the process itself is a bit complicated. But that's what we give ourselves as an excuse. But right now, people in betting industry are doing that and they're getting their money. So there should be an incentive of how can you get people out of the mobile money accounts and give it to you.
I suppose a lot of us know the challenges that lots of internet entrepreneurs are facing, and particularly Jamii Forum, but maybe if you could share with us the challenges that you face as an internetpreneur and how you've overcome them and how possibly other people can overcome.
Well, I think it's a learning process. There's really not going to become a time where everything is just flat. But one of the challenges, I think we don't have a model to copy or to actually imitate or actually to learn on how we did it and what mistakes we can do. So we make mistakes along the way, and we try to fix them and move forward. But the biggest concerns, one, it's how the reputation of the brand varies according to who you ask. People's knowledge about how the platform actually works. So most people believe that we're the ones posting all the content. We pretty much know everybody in this world. And also security. I think it's some of the things controversially actually posted on the content. I mean, you actually get threats, and that also is an issue. And as right now we are facing a legal challenge, of course, that's also a problem. And how are you going to overcome running an internet company while you're restricted of moving out of Dar es Salaam? I mean, that also is a hurdle. So there is no exact formula how you can model that and do it again. But we are learning every day as we face all these challenges, and we are glad that we have 11 years now.
Okay. So maybe just to back up on the legal challenges, the cybercrime law and the impact on tech entrepreneurs. How do you view that, and what would you say are things that other tech entrepreneurs can take away from your lessons, as well as the cybercrime law, and kind of avoid them or rather find ways around them?
So with how it's implemented right now, I would say roughly majority of the cases that are prosecuted by the cybercrime law are politically motivated in one way or the other, has politics attached to them. And I don't think as any startup will actually get a problem with the law unless there's one or other politics involved in whatever he's doing. But I don't think that has a problem with innovation, has a problem with startup founders who are in tech at all. It has nothing or nowhere that actually they can get into that trouble, because it's the way it's built. It only works when it's needed to work, but it doesn't work to everybody equally all the time.
So it doesn't apply to everybody equally. And then again, taking you back to the founding years, picking a co-founder, how did you come to that? Did you have any specific criteria? Did you say, or how did you guys, I mean, Max is here, so how did you guys come together? Was it just you gelled your personalities, or you had different ways of doing things? How did you come up to picking each other as founders of your company?
Well, I don't think I have a formula. I don't think at that time I exactly knew what's happening right now. But we used to work before Jamii Forums. We used to work in another platform, and so working with Jamii Forums became easy because we knew each other before Jamii Forums came into the picture. So we would collaborate on all these, I call them pet projects. So we had a chat room, we had an online radio, we would run, it was in Arusha, it was in Dar es Salaam, and we would run all of these things together before Jamii Forums came. So I think we actually clicked, we actually knew, we were thinking on the same direction, and it could complement most of my weakness because I was young. I remember a few instances where people will just come to the platform and abuse. I'll just block them all. I just don't want to. Like, these are older people. They can't behave themselves. I'm a bit young. I can do it. Why can't they do it? And the guys come. So no, just leave them to me. I know how to talk to them. So he brought I would say maturity into other things we are doing, because at that time I don't think at that age I would handle most of these problems that we were having. So it was a perfect. There's things that I'll go to my email right now, 10 years ago, things that I said I'm doing, and things that would say, no, this is not how it's handled, this is how it went, and I'm okay. If you say so, then just deal with them. So, but reading through history, through Airport, there are some kind of traits I think we have, and it applies to everybody. One is, there's what kind of does it complement your weaknesses? And I think if you can't have that, then it becomes so hard to move, because every time you'll be quarreling on the same stuff. So I think that could be what I've learned throughout the years. Yes.
Yeah. So, other than Jamii Forum, is there any pet projects that you're working on or that you want to work on?
Well, I think every day I'm amazed with how we're growing. For sure, I still have interest and passion in technology, but I think for our Tanzanian context, my pet projects from now on will be to content generations in terms of Tanzanian context, but also try and create content that are Tanzanian but have an African appeal. That will be some of the pet projects I'll be doing. But of course, another thing is outside technology. It's how I think I want to be an industrialist. I don't know how that's mixed with technology, but I think there's so much opportunity in terms of value addition, in terms of manufacturing, that we should start doing. I understand for a fact that everybody is told, every youth, should go and do watermelons and get a lot of money. but nobody's talking on how to make watermelon juice, because then if everybody goes to do watermelon, there's a lot of watermelon, so who's making watermelon juice? Because again, what will actually sell more is a person who makes watermelon juice and not a person who actually makes watermelon. And there's a lot of that, and when you read through data, I mean, for example, post-harvest loss in Tanzania itself, 50% of whatever we plant is lost during after harvest. I mean, from good transport, good storage, and processing. 50% of the food is lost at that time, because we all plant at the same time, we all harvest at the same time, but we can consume at the same time. So the same tomato today is going to cost 3-4 times the next 2 months. So then who is actually processing tomato right now for consumption the next 2 months? And these are simple technologies that are employed in countries like India, where you see small and medium industries that are happening. And we're not doing a lot of that here, and I think there's an opportunity. And when I say opportunity in terms of population growth, Tanzania is having 100 million people in 2035. Africa is doubling its population in the next 30 years, and all these people need to eat. And there's little or no effort done in that area. How do we handle our post-harvest loss? So I think it's an interesting project that I'm trying to explore, and there's a lot of opportunity into that specific area.
Okay, so maybe if you can share with us 5 takeaways from your journey as an entrepreneur till today, specifically for the tech people, but of course I see some agro-processing people in the house, so that as well, since you are going to get into industrialization and into value addition.
Yes, I think tech has a lot of challenges in Tanzania, but I think as days goes by, I've come to understand it much more better. One, you should start and fail fast. That is very key. Build for the extreme user, and we actually innovating good innovation that are not actually needed, or nobody can actually use it, because our traditional ways works better than our innovation in tech. And one is, before you solve a problem, find somebody who can actually buy that solution first. And our intent is very young in terms of cultural. We don't, let me give you an example. When I see a news, WhatsApp, I'll read about it. I'll gossip about it, but I won't trust it until that news is on TV or somebody talks about it on the radio. So what that means, we actually don't trust the internet. We consume the content, but we don't trust. So when you come and tell me, you should buy A, B, C, D, it becomes so much harder to trust, because I even don't trust what news is posted in the same place. So since trust is an issue, whatever e-commerce strategy you have, it becomes a problem to actually turn your traffic into actual leads, because of the trust. So working towards that, you need to combine a lot of, for example, will pay on delivery or things like that. So it actually takes a time, and that time will be, we youth right now grow up the next 5-10 years, and we trust the internet, so we can start buying stuff. But also the trends are changing. 2 years back, Facebook was a real deal. 1 year back, Instagram was a real deal. But right now, YouTube is a real deal. It's not even Snapchat. We consume more YouTube than Nigeria in a day in Tanzania. And there's so many reasons towards that. It's because our data is very cheap, one of the cheapest in Africa. And we also have time. So if you're doing any marketing on social media, you should think of how are you putting video towards it, because if you don't, I think we will actually won't see it. And because we're also lazy, instead of reading and looking at the picture, we can really watch more. So there's a lot that is happening on the tech scene, and I think one of the takeaways that for us to actually solve real problems, we should look for to actually solve the solution. We should look for actual real problems instead of making an app about something else. Let's go to a company and ask them what problem do they have, and what do you think your app can actually solve that problem? Because then again, if you solve that problem, they are more willing to buy that service than actually staying and imagine that because you have the solution to the problem, maybe they will accept your solution. So we need more of companies working with startups and actually give them challenges in terms of problems. Maybe being A, B, C. This is what I'm facing as a problem. Come up with solution. Because if your solution works, I'm more likely to buy that service than if you actually targeting consumers directly. Tanzania is supposed to be a very strange market. I think it's Africa in general. It's the reason we don't have an African unicorn for the last 5-10 years now. It's because we create solutions that are locally that won't work anywhere, because your local problem in Tanzania is not a local problem in South Africa or in Nigeria. So there's no way your tech innovation can work somewhere else. And you go through research, you'll find out that most of the venture capital funds that comes through East Africa, for example, they all 8% have gone to renewable energy. And out of those companies, 90% actually, the founders are Ivy League students that are not even African to start with, because I know for a fact, if it's a solar leasing company that works in Kenya, can work in Gabon, because energy is a problem in all over Africa.
Yeah.
So for people looking to do unicorns or big African tech, they should think of problems that are actually universal.
Right. Now moving a little bit more specifically on managing content and building trust, because you said people don't really trust what comes out of the internet. So how were you able to manage content and build that trust?
Well, I think we had an advantage. All of our content is by the user themselves. So in terms of managing content, managing trust becomes an easy one, because they're the ones who actually are the content providers. So the power is into them, not to us. So we got a pass through that. But if it's a new startup today and you're the solely content provider, that actually poses as a problem, unless you institutionalize, you make me trust you. And one of the things is, I should see you on TV, I should see you on radio, I should see you in places that I can really connect a personality with that particular venture. Other than that, it becomes hard, and that's why it's very hard to maintain startups in Tanzania, because of the trust component. I mean, we easily trust Instagram and Snapchat than we trust anything that you build here. And the same applies to even locally produced stuff here. I mean, so I think we have that trust issues, and it's more cultural, and it's gonna get time to build up and for us to create something to go around it.
Okay. So I think I am done with the questions.
Okay.
I'm going to open up the floor to the audience for questions. Yes. All right. Sebastian.
That was a great interview. Really, really nice interview.
Thank you.
While you were talking, I was thinking about a lot of things. Personally, I think I'm good at social media, but I'd like to be better. On the last note, you were talking about the users and how they're generating content. And this is what I'm thinking right now. What is the future of forums? We have seen a rise and a major development of different social media, but we haven't seen another successful forum as Jamii Forum. What is the problem? What is the issue? That's number one. And I'm also thinking about, you also mentioned something about the same users who are generating content. Now I'm thinking, who is moderating the content? And do your users, how do you control or how do you make your users abide to the terms and conditions that are there for moving forward?
So I think I'll start with the second one. We have forum rules in our platform where I think before you sign up, you register. These are the rules you should know and you should follow. And we have people actually enforcing those rules. We call them quality content controllers. These are human resources in our office that make sure that rules are enforced every day with every content that comes in. So, and regarding your first question,
I think are they the same people that moderate, or they just look at?
They're the same people, but they're also looking more. I mean, for example, you have 20 things about talking. You have 20 different topics talking about the same thing. How can they put up together and create something that is much more easily consumable? So, it's a collaboration between the two.
Okay.
So, in the first question, I think we can differ in terms of how we look at it. Me regarding myself and how even my partner regarding us. I think in Tanzania we have a very special case where a forum actually works and exists and does so good than many other countries in the world. And because if you look at the trend, you find that forums after some time they're branched out and they go into specifics. For example, if there's a bicycle forum, it's a bicycle forum. If it's a cookery forum, it's a cookery forum. So they actually, in other countries, they branch out that way. In Tanzania, we have a very special case where you have to build that trust for you to create something similar, for people to actually find it useful to come into your platform. So with that, we kind of have a competitive advantage where we still have time to grow until we have a disruption. And that is also influenced by how our media works, because if we had a strong media, then it would have been something else. Because people don't see what they think they should see on TV, then they have to find somewhere else to actually go and have that conversation. If this is the conversation that we're having on radio, on TV, then probably people will have an alternative. Okay, let me open this channel. I'm only gonna find content about celebrities. Like, you have celebrity TV, that from Monday to Monday they only talk celebrities, or they only talk business. I don't wanna get anything else. This is all I want. So we still don't have that. Every radio is trying to do everything. So in the time, we're in a world where I want things when I want them. On demand is becoming the way of life. So if I want to read right now about politics, I want to know what is happening right now. That's a place you go and you actually find all your happenings. So we still don't see any disruptors anytime soon, and with how things are going. So
when you say disruptors, do you mean other forums?
No, because not other forums. I mean, people should have an alternative to forums. So what's the alternative? Okay. In terms in Kenya, for example, they're having issues because then they're very tribalistic, but then the media got strong and people have alternative. If I want to know about gossip, I'll go to Gafla Kenya, I'll read all about gossips. And very detailed, exclusive, everything. You want to know about business, I'll go to Business Online. They'll just talk business, stock market analysis everywhere. So we need to get that to actually have a disruptive way. Say, okay, I think instead of relying on user-generated content, maybe I should have this person with this authority to tell me what to do. But with the kind of generation we have, people still, in Tanzania, people trust what people tell to each other, like face to face. No matter what marketing you do, if you don't have a recommendation from people who actually use your product, that product is not going anywhere. I mean, regardless how many adverts you have, how many media campaign you're doing, we still trust word of mouth. And our forum is next to word of mouth. It's just that I don't know who's saying it, but it's next to the month. So killing that, there's not being something that successful actually had to take over word of mouth as a form of communication and recommendation. So there's so many cases.
Another question? Another question? Any question?
The co-founder is actually looking differently. I think that's it.
All right, Ono.
I don't have to comment.
No, but
Later.
Ono, go ahead.
Where do you see the tech scene in the next 10 years, especially in Tanzania?
Well, right now it's not very promising, I would say. I think there's a lot of things we need to change. I mean, we need to change how we approach our problems and how we come up with our solutions. Our market is also very lazy. I mean, we like things we know. Okay. So if anybody's going to come tomorrow with an innovative app about gossips, I mean, it's going to make a lot of money. I want to know what Omesepetu did today. So I have a person with a car, with a boda that follows up Omesepetu 24/7, and that kind of content, I mean, it has a lot of consumers who want to consume that content. And that because that's what the mass is. That's what they want. We actually haven't found problems. We actually don't talk to these people and ask them their problems. So we actually assume what we are inventing, they can be used by these people. And there's a very big disconnect. We don't talk to them. I mean, let's say if you're having an app, you need people to test, you should pretty much go to Mbagala and Mbagala Zakiem and set up your table there and ask people to come up with their phones and get their feedback. That would have been a good place than going to Mlimani City and ask people for feedback. The middle class has so many options. I mean, you go into our phones, you pretty much don't find any local innovative tech apps. But also, we're actually not looking into the right problem. I think technology is a tool, not a movement in our context. I mean, you can't create 100% technology-enabled solutions. So unless you have ways to match, for example, we all need plumbers in our homes because one way we have problems, okay? So, which means if I can connect homes to plumbers, I'm more likely to get a lot of money because we have those problems in our houses. But I don't think we're innovating in that way. I mean, it's Uber for plumbers. We don't have to re-innovate Uber in Tanzania. I mean, we have electrical problems. We want somebody to come and fix my bulbs. It's very high. It's not getting on. It's just expired. So I should log into an app and say, I'm in Mbezi Beach. I need an electrician, and he will come right away and fix that. So unless we take our problems and add tech innovation towards it and find ways to make our life easier, I think that's the only way we're going to activate people and make them, realize. I mean, so I think tech can actually help. So you'll find Uber is probably making business here, while our own Uber has a problem making business here. We had Faster, we had so many other apps that were here. And the problem is the same. I mean, you actually have to have financial muscles to actually run a company for 5-6 years before making any profit. And in our context, you should make money from day one. From the first day you start your tech innovation, you should make money. If you don't, you'll die. And we are all towards, okay, let's make this beautiful thing. And along the way, we find ways to actually monetize this. I think this kind of startup scene works in the States. Even in the States, you should have to make money at the end of the day. So I'm not seeing a lot of our problems solved with tech. And we are more into looking what the West is doing and trying to copy. And I don't think that works.
Another question? Max, there's something that you want to say? No. Any other question? So I guess I did a really good interview, eh?
Well, really bad interview.
A really bad interview. Okay, Lydia.
I'm just looking for maybe your input. I mean, just sum up the tech scene in Tanzania in like 3 words. I know. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
It's a new baby that is still growing and it hasn't started talking or walking yet. So how do you call that?
An infant.
Yeah, an infant.
With that said, I hope you all see potential.
Yeah, but with a lot of potential. Yes, with a extremely lot of potential. I mean, you would go and look. I mean, I was in a program where I had people from other countries, and you'll hear the problems in terms of access to the internet, and you're like, what? You still pay 7 times what I paid to get 1 GB, and so I think we have a lot of potential. It's just that we're still in a shock. We haven't actually found ways to monetize that. Although, because there's our case is very unique, so there's no way you can go and copy and paste and get the same results.
So that's basically it. We usually give a present every time a guest comes. So you get your own Startup Grind t-shirts. Well, you can always get So now you're officially a Startup Grind alumni.
The other old ones, they're like, get something here.
So you want an old one?
No, it was much.
Oh, it was my t-shirt. Alright, awesome.